Welcome to another edition of the Wrestling Retrospective podcast. I'm your host, Earnest EJ Christian. We're going to continue doing the Wrestlemania 10 tribute here as you're 30 years later this year. And joined here, of course, is 1/5 of the 3CT podcast. Also, Final Wrestling Place. Jeez, I had the laundry list of those shows you do, man. Tim, not the Toolman Taylor on the show once again. Tim, what's up, buddy?
Not much, man. I'm taking my medication as much as I can. You know, doctor a couple weeks ago prescribed me with Wrestlemania fever, so I've been trying to keep it down and trying not to sweat it out too hard, but it is right around the corner, WrestleMania in Philadelphia, which might as well be my back effing yard. I can't wait for WrestleMania. Unfortunately, only going to be there one night, but
really? Only one night?
I'm only going Sunday.
That's you. Okay.
It's a little steep, a little rich, but I got to go for night two. I had to make the decision on which night I wanted to go to. And it's going to be nice, too, to see night one of Mania as, like, a fan on the network, on Peacock, to see the presentation of it, and then to be in the sea of heads, 60-plus thousand people at Lincoln Financial Field, ready to just take in all of the sights, sounds, and smells of WrestleMania XL.
So this is not your first WrestleMania, right?
No, my only other WrestleMania was WrestleMania 29.
Really?
From MetLife. That was CM Punk Undertaker. It was on Triple H and Brock Lesnar. And it was in your main event, Rock Austin or Rock Cena 2.
Right.
So, yep. Twice in a lifetime. So
yeah, you've done twice. I mean, you've done something I've never done before. I have still not gone to attend WrestleMania, and I was going to try to go this year, but things didn't work out, unfortunately, for me to make that a reality. But it is what it is. But today here we are discussing, because it is the 3rd anniversary of WrestleMania 10. We just did an episode on this feed actually about a week and a half ago with Rob the Genius. We did a watch along on Shawn Michaels and Razor Ramon from this exact show. This episode, I want to focus mainly on Bret Hart. Bret Hart worked 2 matches this night. He worked, of course, against his brother, the opening match of this show, and then he also did the title match against Yokozuna. So what we're going to do normally, a little different here this time. We're going to have 2 timestamps to show you guys on this show of both Bret matches, and basically the focus is going to be on Bret Hart, as this is really his coronation, really, of his career, in terms of winning the title. Now, obviously, he had the title, 2 years before this. He won the title against Ric Flair in late '92. Lost the title to Yokozuna in WrestleMania 9, and gets it. Of course, he'll get it back. Spoiler alert, of course, he'll get it back here, of course, here. But I want to keep a focus here on Bret Hart. Now, this show was initially going to be with me, you, and our good pal, host of 3CT, Big Jim, James Neese, but unfortunately, he couldn't make it last minute, which is disappointing because Big Jim is, of course, the Bret Hart mark of this planet. So.
That's right. Unfortunately, a very tragic Burger King incident for Big Jim, rolling his ankle severely, not able to make the podcast. Thoughts and prayers.
Are you serious?
Jim. That is a running joke. So when Jim listens to this,
he was got me on that one.
When Jim listens to this, he's gonna be like, son of a bitch, I hate your guts. Unfortunately, I wish Big Jim could have been here, but he is with us in spirit, much like a lot of the Hart family.
Of course. Before we get started, of course, for folks who don't know the backdrop of WrestleMania 10, it did take place on March 20th, 1994 in New York City at Madison Square Garden. Attendance for the show, of course, was 18,065. The buy rate, of course, in North America was 420,000. The tagline for the show, 10 years in the making, obviously. Little Timmy Taylor, what were you doing in 1994? What were you?
I was watching WrestleMania 10.
Were you really? How old were you this time?
I was 8.
Okay.
I would have been turning 8, so I would have been 7 here.
Right.
But Yeah, my first foray into wrestling, I've mentioned it multiple times, but like I really got into wrestling that I can remember in 1992.
Okay.
More on the WCW side.
Okay.
I was very big into WCW, but I remember um, Starcade 92 with the great Muda and Masahiro Chono
Mhm.
for the NWA championship, and then Muda winning Battle Bowl. But I was addicted to wrestling on both sides, and God bless my mom. Worked very hard to make sure I got every pay-per-view that I possibly could until like 1998.
That's
Uh,
awesome.
we were buying all the WCW and WWF pay-per-views, but back then they were like $19.99 a piece. It wasn't too bad.
Yeah.
My mom would buy Peacock 9 times over if I could get all the pay-per-views for free.
Yeah.
It was always fun being the little kid because we would I think the statute of limitations is up on this. I was a dirty pay-per-view taper. And so
Okay.
I had all the pay-per-views from like 94 to 98 on 8-hour VHSs, but
Yeah.
I would put the entire month on one. So like for WrestleMania, it would be Super Brawl of that year.
Right.
So 94 would have been like what, Super Brawl 3?
Mm-hmm.
Super Bowl 3 or 4, and then WrestleMania 10 would be on the other side of the tape. And boy, learning at 8 years old, knowing the difference between LP and EP and SLP. Oh man,
Great
crazy.
times, huh?
And now,
These kids don't get it.
no, they don't. Kids don't know the struggle, man. They don't get it. And but that was me, man. I loved somewhere either here in the basement of this house or over back home in either my aunt's house or my cousin's house in one of their attics. My tapes still exist, and I need to digitize them as best as possible. But I also will need to buy like a small server to hold everything and be able to watch
So
it.
I still have tapes. Now mine came from tape trading from years ago though too. So I have like all the original Sunday Night Main events. But what's cool about it is that I have it. I got it in tape trading from like 20 years ago. But it has the original commercials from 1987, 1986, all nine, and all that stuff, and it's great. It's amazing. I love it. So that's why I won't ever get rid of it because I want to keep those authentic, feelings.
Right.
Because when you watch like those shows, for example, for me, like it feels like 1988. It feels like 88. I'm getting the vibe of that because of the quality of the tape, the commercials, and all that. You don't get the same way with Peacock, obviously. But again, Peacock is what it is, man. Love the network. It is what it is. All right, so if we get started, like I said, we're going to have 2 timestamps. The first timestamp is going to be 7 minutes, 29 seconds. Of course, it is WrestleMania 10. It is season 10, episode 1 of WrestleMania tab. If you need to pause, do so now. But it will be 7 minutes and, we'll say 7 minutes, 30 seconds. Might as well. Of where we're at here. Otherwise, and we'll give a second timestamp after we finish this match. We'll do the last Bret match at the back end of the show, which will be, I guess I'll say it's 2 hours, 20 minutes, or 16 seconds. But basically the focus here is on Bret Hart at this point. So if we're ready to go, we get this party started, and we have this commentary on this show. It is WrestleMania 10. Ready to go, Tim?
Yes, sir.
Let's do it in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. This feud was red hot leading into this match.
And we're getting the video, we're getting the lead up package right now if your guys are following along, but all spawns from the Survivor Series with the Hart family versus Shawn Michaels and his Knights. And of course, Owen is the only member of the Hart family to be eliminated from the Survivor Series match. And kind of Bret's fault, right?
Yeah.
And Owen right now talking about being in the shadow of his brother Bret. You can feel the angst. And, of course, I'm an only child, right?
Right.
I don't know what it's like to have a brother, flesh and blood, who he's either been older than me or younger than me my entire life. Of course, later on, I developed friendships that are like brothers. but nothing quite like this. And the whole story of this is it is a touchstone for the vast majority of people, just because you've got just the relatability of the bigger brother wanting to look after the younger brother, never wanting to fight his younger brother, and the younger brother wanting to look up to and follow in the footsteps of his older brother, but realizing that sometimes you can't follow in the footsteps and you got to make your own way. And that's where we get to Royal Rumble '94 against the Quebecers.
Yeah, correct. I always wondered, like, you look back in hindsight in this era. So I was kind of in and out this time also too, like watching. I knew what was going on, but I was not watching. I just for the record, I was turning 14 around this. I would turn 14 about a month and a couple of days later. But I wasn't watching, like tediously. But I do remember this feud very, very well. And you watch in hindsight, and you see all the work Owen has done prior to his death. It still stuns me that even with the talent pool being so less, it was so top heavy this era, why Vince never pulled the trigger on an Owen title run, even for a short time. It still bugs me watching this in hindsight, his work in hindsight.
Yeah. I mean, I personally think that he should have won at SummerSlam. He should have won the cage match, or even having Bret versus Owen at like King of the Ring.
That was 93 or 90. That was 94 SummerSlam, right? They met, right? Or 93.
Yeah, SummerSlam is the run back to this match.
Right, so 94. Right.
But if they would have had a match prior where Owen wins the title and then loses it back to Bret in the cage, I think that's the perfect time. At this point in Owen's career, I don't think he's ready for the WWE title. You can only believe that if Owen didn't have there wasn't the tragedy of the end of his career in life, especially in that era, 98, 99, 2000. Look at everybody who's in the WWE at that time, right? You've got the Radicals coming in 2000. You've got Kurt Angle. Before that, you've got Ken Shamrock. You have all of these smaller athletic guys who Owen could be the Bret for and like really go through it. And of course, Bret, he's gone in 97. He's off in the WCW. And we get to, that's right. And Owen can be that stalwart and move forward, especially as Triple H advanced. So too could have Owen, and Owen would have been a shoo-in as WWE champion, especially in the revolving door of the WWE title from 99 into like 2001.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
No, I agree with that. Cause I think also too, even with Bret winning it here, Vince was still experimenting. I think there was still trepidation about Bret being the guy because Vince had a certain mindset who should be a top guy. Hogan's gone now over a year now at this point, about a year now.
Well, so Hogan's last match is
King of the Ring.
Is King of the Ring 93. So that was June. So
June of 93, right. So I think at this point, Vince is not sure. He has Yoko hold the belt now from this point now all the way through this night. But I think he's unsure who should be my top guy because I think he wasn't convinced Bret could be that kind of draw consistently like Hogan was. And also Vince had in his head too also that my top guy should be this strong, big. That's why he was trying to push Lex Luger, which failed on his head. So the door was open for Vince to try new things. Even if he was convinced Bret was the guy, that's why I thought maybe Owen should have had a shot at some point. Of course, later in the year they go to Diesel, and he's a top champion for a year. I don't know, man. I just feel like they missed the ball with Owen. As great as he is, I mean, I would love to see Owen get one opportunity at a title, for the world title.
Right.
But yeah, this is It's funny because I was talking to Rob about this on the last podcast when we did the Razor Sean watch along. I think WrestleMania 10 ages very well. I think if I did a top 20 WrestleManias all time, this cracks top 20.
But so like, yes, but top 20 means 50%. Like we've had 40 WrestleManias. To say it's in the top half, that's tough, right? That's like being the skinniest kid at fat camp. It's tough, right? Because if you're if you're like the 20th best WrestleMania, I don't think that's a great ringing endorsement. And I'm not saying you're putting it at 20.
No, right,
I mean,
right.
But I think 10 is up there. It should be considered very good. I think it's going to be forever remembered as a 2-match card.
Correct.
With
but
this
I
and
really
then the
thought
ladder match.
Right. But my argument for this too is the fact that in this era of new generation, there aren't many things that stand out. Like events wise, matches stand out, of course, but I think this is not a terrible card in comparison to what we'll get to her next year, WrestleMania 11. Of course, that was garbage.
I mean, you've got the mixed tag with Bam Bam and Luna versus Doink and Dink, which is not very good.
Yeah,
you have Randy Savage and Crush Falls Count Anywhere, which is not good.
So I have a hot take on that one. You're gonna say this. I hate the concept of the match. I thought the match was okay.
Right.
The concept was what killed the fucking match. I thought the match itself was actually, I mean, it was beneath Savage at this point, but still, it wasn't. The match was terrible.
If it would have been a traditional Falls Count Anywhere,
that's what I'm saying.
It would have been better. But they did a match style that they've never done in the WWE.
Right.
They essentially did Texas Death, where like Crush is counted out and then is unable to return to the ring after the count of 10.
Yeah. How many good matches do you need? How many good matches in the card do you think you need at a WrestleMania? Well, any great, event, but WrestleMania especially specifically because of the conversation. How many good matches do you think you need for the WrestleMania to be considered a great WrestleMania?
Close to half. Like think about the WrestleManias that you would consider the best of all time, right? The standard is WrestleMania 17, right? Like,
yeah, I would say that, yes.
Everybody points to 17. Well,
as the total card, right? The total card being
Rock
phenomenal.
Austin, like WrestleMania 17. Like, let me pull up the 17 card because I don't have it from memory. But if you think about WrestleMania 17, you've got Rock Austin 2. You have the street fight with Vince and Shane. You have TLC 2. You have Undertaker Triple H. You've got Kurt Angle, Chris Benoit. And then, like, that's 5, 3.5, 4-star and above matches. And then you pepper in all these other 3-star matches. Jericho, William Regal. Even the triple threat hardcore title match is really good. Eddie Guerrero and Test is really good. Mm-hmm. Even the Gimmick Battle Royal is fun to go back and watch. So WrestleMania 17 is very much an exception and not a rule. But if you go to, like, I think one of the best 3 WrestleMania stretches of all time is 17, 18, 19.
See, I think 19 is so great. I think 19 is the most talented card in history of the business because it merged. I think I mentioned you on the Royal Rumble watch we did a couple months ago. It merges 3 to 4 eras. You get Hulkamania era represented, Attitude era represented, New Generation era represented, and then the new Ruthless Aggression at that time represented.
Yeah. So, like, if you get to 18, right? 18, there's 11 matches on the card. Taker Flair's pretty fun.
Pretty decent, yeah.
Rock Hogan is absolutely a fantastic match. The triple threat match for the women's title, really solid, even though they don't really get much time. Triple H and Jericho is going to be maligned for having to follow Rock Hogan.
Right.
But that's still a really solid match, unfortunately, for them. But then you've got a lot of fun stuff going on at 18 too, like the through line of the hardcore title. You've got a fun match with Edge and Booker, which isn't super long, but it's definitely fun. And then Kurt Angle and Kane just doing their best. And then you've got 19, and 19 for me is just as strong as 17.
I love 19. I think 19.
But there are things in 19 that are like all-time bad. Right? The Miller Lite Catfight Girls segment at 19
that's pretty bad.
Is all-time bad. Triple H leaving Booker T in the dirt to this day from the pedigree. Like Booker T is still laying down at WrestleMania 19 in Safeco Field. He hasn't gotten up yet. I think the Booker T we see now is like the Renegade, right? Ultimate Warrior died, and then we got the Renegade. Booker T was pedigreed, and racism won that day. If you remember the feud where Triple H was like, guys like you don't win what does that mean, guys like you, Triple H? Former like black felons? Is it because that was the whole storyline? Booker T went to jail, and so racism wins. Triple H is the champ, but you look away from that. Another great women's triple threat match. Triple threat tag team match is great. Jericho and Shawn Michaels is great. Hogan McMahon in the street fight. My hot take for now until forever, Rock Austin 3 is the best Rock Austin match of all of them.
I'm with you on that one.
You can skip WrestleMania 2. You skip 17, give me 19 all day.
I'm with you 100% on that one also. Yep.
Yeah,
I'm a 19 over 17 over 15.
And then Lesnar and Kurt Angle would be looked at as an all-time match had Brock Lesnar not messed up a shooting star press. Like, but with there being such all-time bad on this card, it's a little diminished. But I still have 19 as like one of the top 5 WrestleManias of all time. I actually just had this conversation with a couple of buddies of mine, and
I'm glad you mentioned that. Forget what we consider the best WrestleManias of all time. What are your top 5 WrestleManias of all time?
My top 5.
No order. Just
I have them in order. I just have to find my. I have to find my the text thread, and of course we talk a lot, so it's hard for me to get there. But I am actually very good at vamping, so we're gonna talk through it. But I definitely had 17. I had 19. For me, I have 19 over 17, even though the reconcilable differences with the all-time bad. But I have 19, 17, WrestleMania 8, WrestleMania 31, and WrestleMania 33. Those are my top 5. And then for me, my bottom 5 manias are WrestleMania 11, 27, 25, 1, and 32.
So my top 3 off the rip is 5, 3, and 19. Off the rip.
Yeah.
I have a hard time fitting the other 2 because here's my problem. These last three we've had, last 3 to 4, 36, 39, have been, 37, 39, I should say, last 3, have been really, 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 really good.
Yeah. To your point, Chris Van Vliet just had Sam Roberts on.
Okay.
And Chris asked Sam, what is the best and worst WrestleMania of all time? And Sam said that the worst WrestleMania of all time is WrestleMania 27, which if you go back and look at WrestleMania 27, it is very hard to disagree. When the main event of the show, The Miz and John Cena, has nothing to do with them, and it is literally The Rock, and the show ends with The Rock celebrating and not the WWE champion, The Miz. And there's also the worst WrestleMania match of all time, Jerry Lawler and Michael Cole on that card. Cannot deny that.
I never watched that before, to be honest with you, so I'm not going to speak on that. But what you're telling me, dude, that sounds horrible.
It is. But the set looked great. I loved WrestleMania 27 set. But Sam Roberts said that the best WrestleMania of all time is WrestleMania 38.
That's stack them, pin them.
That is stack 'em, pin 'em.
Wait, 38 is that right?
That
No.
is Johnny that's
No,
Johnny
no.
Knoxville. That's Stone Cold Kevin Owens.
I apologize. That's not it. That was
Oh no,
Brock.
that's winner take all.
That's Brock and Roman. Sorry.
Yeah,
37
Brock
was
Roman.
Stack'em.
Yep. But
this is great too.
And the reason why he says that is because if you go back and look over the last 3 years of WWE, it all started from WrestleMania 38. WWE has been telling a single story from 38 to today.
I agree with the last two. I may put the last two as in my top 5 because not only do the top of the card is amazing, you also get the women having phenomenal matches. Like 37 gets a sniff too because of the fact that that was Bianca and Sasha, if I'm not mistaken. Headline one night.
It is,
and that's one of my top 10 WrestleMania matches of all time.
Mm-hmm.
It really is. So, and the card itself was actually really decent. 3 from I actually love 3 as a whole show. I'll be honest with you, not just the Savage Steamboat, not just Hogan, Andre, but the 3 as a whole show to me was actually a really good show. It told good stories. Roddy Piper had a story to tell in that one. Junkyard Dog, Harley Race had a story to tell in that one. Yeah, there's a couple of duds here and there, obviously, but as an entire show, as a spectacle, it was amazing. 5 is my favorite, but that's because 5 is special to me. Mega Power Explode. There's also
right.
Warrior loses the title on the Root. No one called that.
Right.
If we watch WrestleMania 5 as adults, that swerve with the IC title match would have been a shock. Because Warrior was red hot when he lost the title.
Yeah, and then on top of that, with 5, I mean, you've got Demolition, Powers of Pain.
Yes,
you've got the Busters versus Strike Force and the split of them.
So that was actually a great split too. Also, I hated it.
Yeah,
but it was a good split. Yeah.
Rude and Warrior, obviously. Hogan, Savage, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard to go. It's hard to root against 5.
Right.
Storytelling. There are some filler matches in 5, kind of like what you were talking about with WrestleMania 4 before we started recording.
Hercules, those kind of matches. Yeah, some fillers there.
Mr. Perfect, Blue Blazer, Dino Bravo, Ronnie Garvin, Bad News Brown, and Hacksaw Jim Duggan.
Yeah,
like some matches that you probably could have. You wanted to get everybody on the card.
Yeah,
like I get it. It's WrestleMania.
And back then they loaded the cards up. And back then they loaded the cards up. All the guys, they loaded the cards up back then. It is what it is.
For sure. Yeah, they did.
We'll talk about this. This is actually a phenomenal match. We'll talk about this. Yeah, I don't know, man. I just think, but I do think like this WrestleMania 10 holds up well. As a whole, like I'm looking at top. Yeah, it's probably gonna be in the teens. If you talk about like, okay, where'd you put WrestleMania 20? Okay, probably in the teens, somewhere between 13 and 17, 18, whatever you want to call it. But it stands out for me because in an era where there wasn't a lot of great things going on, especially with shows, this is one of the few standouts events they had in those 2-3 years.
Mm-hmm.
Like SummerSlams didn't stand out other than the ladder match with Razor and HBK the year later. How many standouts do you really have events wise in this era? Not I don't think any.
Right, and that's tough too because WWE, especially after like WrestleMania 8, because really WrestleMania 8 is like the end of the Hulkamania era.
Correct.
We get the relapse back into it at 9.
Yeah.
But the WrestleMania, the Hulkamania era, it ends at 8, and they're trying to figure out what the World Wrestling Federation looks like after that, right? Which is why this WrestleMania 10 is so important. It's a milestone because Vince McMahon has to make a decision as to who are we going to have be the flag bearer of this next era of WWF, right? And that's why, with Bret's coronation as being the guy who is the leader of the new generation moving forward.
It starts out with Savage as champion first. They go back to the well of that one more time. was Savage champion, and then he loses to Flair again in September, and literally days later, Bret gets the title, like you mentioned.
Right, but even then, Savage is a callback. He's a derivative of the Hogan era.
Correct.
Right? And so, like, Flair wins the title because Undertaker has to forfeit, or the title gets held up after this Tuesday in Texas with Hogan and Hogan and Undertaker. Right? So Flair kind of wins it by happenstance, but Undertaker is still, Hulk Hogan is still involved in the picture, but he's kind of tied up with Sid Justice.
Yeah.
And then after WrestleMania 8, like, we get like, Hogan's kind of pretty much gone. He's not around at SummerSlam 92. He doesn't come back really until the lead up to WrestleMania 9,
right,
where he comes to the aid of Brutus the effing Barber against Money Inc., which would have been a great spot for him, but instead he had to glory hound and go after Yokozuna after Bret gets screwed out of the title by the foreign press and the salt
Mr. Fuji
from Fuji. So but yeah, WrestleMania 10, to go along with your point, like, it will be looked at fondly. For me, my hot take, while I did say this is going to be remembered as a 2-match card, it's not a 2-match card. It's a 1-match card, and it's the match we're watching right now. I am not big on Sean Razor at all. There are two
That's
matches,
a fucking take, buddy.
There are 2 matches that I am notoriously down on that everybody else universally loves.
Can I guess the other one?
Sure.
And now, granted, this match might be more polarizing, as I've learned in recent years. It's not the Iron Man match, is it?
Which one?
Iron Man match.
No, I like the Iron Man match.
Okay. So what's the other one?
I can't watch it all the time.
Of course not. It's too long. It's too damn long.
Right. But I will tell you this. Some regard it as the greatest triple threat match of all time.
Is it the Benoit?
Yes.
Guerrero?
No,
20.
Benoit, Triple H, Shawn Michaels from WrestleMania 20. I hate that match.
Why?
I think it's way too extra. Triple threat matches are hard to do anyways. And I don't find the appeal. I don't see what's so great about it. Now, to be fair, and I'm going to remedy this. I'm saying this on a lot of different podcasts.
Okay.
But my goal, I have set my New Year's resolution 4 months into the year.
Okay.
My goal is to build out a wrestling journal. I want to star rate every WWE match on pay-per-view.
Oh, pay-per-view. Okay.
At least the pay-per-views at first. Maybe we'll get to TV, but I don't know if I'm that hungry for punishment or not.
That should be a podcast in itself.
I would like to do WWE, WCW, ECW, NXT, TNA, ROH, AEW. I'd like to at least go through the United States promotions and star rate a lot of these matches to really see where I stack up, because I can just go by memory, but to have like my log of what this match is, where it stacks up, and what I compare this match to. I'm not saying that the triple threat match is bad. I don't think it's the greatest triple threat match of all time.
The only reason I'm not going to push you back on that one is because while I do like that match a lot, I am not a fan typically of triple threat matches anyway. So I don't blame you for, feeling that way, honestly.
Like, I think there was a triple threat match. I think that Gunther, Sheamus, and Drew McIntyre.
That was a great match last year.
Yes, that is a better triple threat match than WrestleMania 20.
Right.
I think that Daniel Bryan, Randy Orton, Batista from 30 is better than the match at 20. I think that WrestleMania 32, Charlotte, Sasha, Becky, I think that's a better triple threat match. And as we get to the finish,
yeah,
the sit out,
what a swerve! What a swerve, huh?
Yeah, I will always remember Owen having the big spittle in the corner of his mouth from just exhaustion in this match.
Where would you rank this match all time WrestleManias? Because it's definitely in the better third of Mania matches all time.
I think it's top 10. I think it's top 10 WrestleMania match of all time. It is the number one opener of all time for WrestleMania.
Mania opener. Yeah.
There's only two other matches that I'd put close to it.
Okay.
One is Daniel Bryan, Triple H from 30. And I'm very high, even though it's a really short match. I think Rey Mysterio versus Matt Hardy from WrestleMania 19 is really fun. But to me, this is the standard bearer. This is a 5-star match. And
they're putting a fucking banger here, these guys.
Yeah, this is a 5-star match, even though Dave Meltzer does not give it 5 stars.
Well, fuck Dave Meltzer.
He does give the cage match at SummerSlam 5 stars.
Okay.
But this is definitely if it is not in the top 10, it is definitely right outside of that. This is a timeless match. I could watch this match every day, put it in a time capsule and open it later.
So let me ask you this real quick, because I don't remember the lead up to this. Obviously I remember the lead up the feud, but in terms of Bret was guaranteed a title shot no matter what, right?
Okay, so we get to the Royal Rumble 94, right?
Right.
And Royal Rumble 93 is the first Royal Rumble in which the winner of the Royal Rumble got a WWE title shot at WrestleMania.
Right.
92, the winner was the champion. 93, Yokozuna is the number one contender for WrestleMania.
Right.
So 94 is the second year of that stipulation.
Correct. All right. Correct.
So whoever won the Royal Rumble would get the opportunity.
And Bret won it.
There was a double WrestleMania 90 or Royal Rumble 94 was the double winners. It's Bret and it's Luger.
Luger, right.
Yes, they go over at the same time and they land at the same time. So, as a way to give both of them title matches and to make it fair, they flipped a coin to determine who would have the first shot at Yokozuna. And whoever wasn't was going to have to wrestle a second match at Mania, because Yoko and Luger would have to wrestle, and they wanted it to be fair. So Bret had to wrestle a match before facing the winner of Yoko and Luger.
By the way, did you see Howard Finkel with his full set of hair?
I know, with Cy Sperling, the owner of the Hair Club for Men.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Now, as you said that, I'm remembering that now, because again, this era, not watching day to day, not watching week to week, not even watching month to month. To be honest, I'm just checking in when I feel like it for the big events, and so I forgot how did they square away the title situation in the Mania, but it makes sense now.
Yep, and they, of course, because they do the double matches or the 2 matches to make it fair. And both matches have special guest referees.
Correct.
The match with Luger and Yoko has a special guest referee of Mr. Perfect, who has absolute history with Lex Luger dating back to the year prior at WrestleMania 19, with Luger and the Narcissus.
Correct.
And then, of course, the special guest referee for the main event is a person who has a ton of history with Bret, dating back to WrestleMania 8, and even before that, Rowdy Roddy Piper.
Of course.
Yes.
All right, so folks, listen to the podcast real quick. We just finished the first match between Owen and Bret. Of course, Owen won that match. And we now shift our timestamp now to 2 hours, 20 minutes, and 16 seconds. Again, once if you need to pause this podcast, do so in the meantime. Otherwise, if Tim, you ready to go, or you still have to?
I'm ready. I'm already
we
there.
can start now. So you can pause it now. Otherwise, ready to go. We get started in 5, 4, 3, 2. As we see the match between Yoko and Bret. So Yoko did beat Lex Luger.
Yes.
Yes.
So Yoko beats Lex Luger by disqualification.
Right. Wasn't it clean?
Because Luger put his hands on Mr. Perfect as the referee.
Correct. Right. And I think there were rumors actually that Vince was really still on the fence about whether or not to have Luger as the champion to come out as the champ, because he wanted to see the big guy, the next Hogan guy.
Well,
Luger didn't have it, man. Let's be real.
If you believe everything you read,
right,
Luger was supposed to win the title at SummerSlam
93.
Yes. And Luger was told he was winning the title. And Luger went on radio talk shows leading up to SummerSlam, telling people he was going to win the title. And Vince found out, and he changed his mind. So Luger was supposed to get crowned at SummerSlam, because if you remember, to make everything make sense, SummerSlam was Luger's last chance. Luger returns to the WWF on the USS Intrepid, July 4th. The body slam heard round the world leads to him and Yoko. And Luger's got the forearm. And if Luger does not beat Yokozuna or does not win the WWE title at SummerSlam, then he will never have another shot at the WWE title again. Luger wins the match by countout. But because it was his last title match and titles don't change hands on countout, he wins the match but doesn't win the title, which is why it was such a big deal that Luger wins the Royal Rumble, because it is the way for Luger to get his last chance, his actual last chance at Yokozuna. But then he does what he does, and he lays his hands on Mr. Perfect, right or wrong, and he gets himself disqualified, which leads us to where we are now with Yokozuna, the mighty WWE champion, who has pretty much had a reign of terror since
Yoko was
winning the title at WrestleMania, and even before then, in his Royal Rumble victory, with just a little blip between WrestleMania and King of the Ring.
Again, this is the man that ended the, arguably the greatest era in wrestling history, arguably at the time, in Hulkamania. He ended Hulkamania,
right?
Literally. I mean, he was the guy that did it. Obviously, on screen. So, there's Pat Patterson. Is that Jenny McCarthy?
No,
that's what's her name? That's Jenny Garth
from
Jenny Garth.
Yeah, Jenny Garth.
Right. And Burt Reynolds, of course.
My man, Burt Reynolds.
Yes. That's Monday.
I don't remember what he did to his hand.
Good question.
But
of course, see Pat Patterson walking up with him as well too. Um, but yeah, this is the guy that ended Hulkamania. Yokozuna was booked as a monster, a complete reign of terror, and then it's like once he lost his match, he was done pretty much.
Yeah. And then you have to think like people, you think about the reign of Hulkamania, but he also does something else too.
What is it?
That he puts a humanizing mark on the Undertaker.
That's true.
Because of Yokozuna buries the Undertaker. And that's why the Undertaker's not at WrestleMania 10. Because at the Royal Rumble, Undertaker ascends to the heavens, and we do not see him until SummerSlam that year.
Now, in real life, he was taking time off, I think, right?
I think he was having, his wife had a kid, and I think he was having surgery too.
Okay.
They officially announced the special guest referee right here. Because the special guest referees had not been announced. They were not announced until the match itself. So Hot Rod right here is definitely a surprise.
Of course, he just met Bret 2 years earlier at Mania 8 for the IC title in a classic match also.
Roddy Piper's first time being pinned ever, I think, was the Piper had lost, but he had never been pinned.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think Orndorff got pinned in WrestleMania 1, right? Am I not mistaken? Okay.
And then he loses the boxing match, but he got himself disqualified
against T in 2.
Yes.
Then he beats Adrian Adonis at 3.
Yep.
He's gone for 4.
Gone for 4, gone for 5, gone for 6.
5 he was there as a guest on the
Robert Downey Jr.
Robert Downey. No, not Robert. Morton Downey.
Morton Downey. Don't you dare blow no more smoke in my face, Mr. Downey.
By the way, I used to watch the show back in the day too. Also, it's kind of crazy. It was kind of early Jerry Springer ish.
Yes. But no 6, no 7, 8. He's back.
No. 6. He beat Bennis Brown with the half face.
That's right.
That's DQ. Was that double DQ, I think, or double count out, I think it was?
I'm not sure, but it's the Hot Scott.
He didn't get pinned, though. Yeah, he didn't get pinned.
Hot Rod and the Hot Scott.
Right. And then
I remember they made a huge deal about Piper never have lost.
Yes. Until 8.
And that was his first loss.
Yeah.
By pinfall, getting, of course, Bret catching Piper off guard in the sleep. Piper's got the sleeper hold on Bret. And Bret scales the corner and flips back and puts all of his weight as a ball on the shoulders of Roddy Piper, and Piper doesn't have the wherewithal to let go of the sleeper, and gets pinned. And now you see that finish at every indie show you go to that involves a sleeper hold. WWE loves to run this back. WWE runs it back again at WrestleMania 5 or WrestleMania 13. Or even SummerSlam 96 with Bret and Austin. Austin's got the $1 Million Dream on Bret, and Bret scales the corner again.
So, I mean, Survivor Series.
Survivor Series 96, sorry.
Right.
SummerSlam, I believe SummerSlam, Stone Cold Steve Austin is in the brawl for all, or not brawl for all, the free for all match against Yokozuna, and Yokozuna rips the top turnbuckle off. And that was like the last really you see of Yokozuna. Or he's around for a little bit more, but here's the Hitman hobbled.
Hurt. Yeah. By the way, another example of a champion coming in ring first, which I hated. Like when happened to Savage at 5, he came in first for Hogan. Hated that. I hate it when Yokozuna as a champion coming in first. I hate it.
Right.
Sorry, I just hate it. Champs come last. Always.
See, in my mind, I always think of it as kind of like the coin toss in football.
Okay.
I think that traditionally the champion comes out last because you have to think it's the mind game. Make the challenger wait. The challenger goes out there and they're pacing and they're waiting for the champion.
Right.
in my mind, when a champion comes out first, it's because they're trying to set a message for the challenger, right? I think it's the champion making the decision. The champion's like, I'm going out first. And then the guy's got to look at me the whole way down.
Mm-hmm.
They got to see who I am. I'm waiting on them. They're not waiting on me.
Wait.
Now that could just be logically looking at it and like trying to make sense of it. But tradition tells you champion comes out last.
Makes sense on nonsense.
Right. You got to, right? In the world of wrestling where you have to suspend your disbelief so much, you have to try to assign logic to an illogical situation.
Right. I agree. By the way, I forgot. So Yokozuna had both Cornette and Fuji?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, I forgot about that.
Jim Cornette was his American. God, what was
ambassador?
The actual?
Was it ambassador?
It was his American ambassador, or let me look.
But anyone watching this match could have told you that Bret was winning this match. If it was a sub that way. You can just tell Bret was going to be winning this match. Bret as the sympathetic babyface here, coming into the ring limping. But I thought it was actually good booking that have Owen win the match.
Spokesman. American spokesman.
Okay. I thought it was good booking though that had Owen win the first match though, honestly.
Mm-hmm. It does. I mean, especially if you're setting the table to put doubt in the hearts of the fans.
Yeah.
If Bret can't beat his brother Owen, what chance does he have against the 505-pound mighty Yokozuna, who he lost to the year before?
Mm-hmm. Albeit not clean, but yeah.
Boy, Roddy Piper's got a fast count. He's already up to give him a chance, Hot Rod.
Speaking of Piper, I got to ask you, where are you on the Piper thing? Because I've never been a huge Roddy guy. And this is kind of a hot take. I think I appreciate him now in hindsight, but back then, growing up as a kid, I was never a big Roddy guy. And honestly, and a lot of it too also, I believe, is because I never liked him as a babyface. I liked him as a heel.
I appreciate, the older I get, the more I appreciate Roddy Piper.
I do too now, in hindsight.
I think if I were older and I was more, because when WrestleMania 1's going on, I'm still living in my dad's nutsack, right? I'm not anywhere close to being born. But if I were a teenager at WrestleMania 1, or even like a preteen, right?
Uh-huh. And
I'm seeing this guy who's a jive talker. He's got the gift of gab. He's just like, especially like as a guy who likes the heels.
Mm-hmm.
I could get behind Roddy Piper. For me, I never saw what was so special about Roddy Piper, because they would always bring him back like he was some big deal. But like, I missed him at 1, 2, 3. I kind of missed him at 6, right? Mm-hmm. So the first time I see Roddy Piper's a commentator.
Yeah.
He's a commentator.
Which for the record, I would say on the record, I never really enjoyed him as a commentator either. It was too much.
Oh, I love Piper as a commentator, man. I love him. I love him as a commentator. I love him doing his interviews, like Piper's Pit. That's great stuff.
That I enjoyed. But I think, to be fair, though, I think a lot of the reason why I didn't enjoy him as a commentator is probably more linked to the fact that I missed Jesse Ventura. I am the biggest Jesse Ventura mark on the planet.
Right.
So losing Jesse and having babyface commentators and Vince and him and Piper, I wasn't used to that. I didn't enjoy that as much.
I think Piper was the first, and he well, no, because Jesse would do it too, but like Piper looked at addressed commentary where he had the eye for what the villain was doing, and he could put himself in a situation mentally to explain the actions of a villain.
Correct. He did that, but he was clearly a babyface, though.
Right.
It was clear.
That's I feel like it was clear. Like he did root for the baby faces and boo the heels, but I think it came across like it wasn't. I don't feel like it was super heavy handed. I don't.
Maybe you could right there. I just think he was so over the top though with the reaction. I'm like, oh my god, it got a little too much. Even at 10, 11 years old, it was too much for me.
Right, and I will give you that. You know, Piper is very demonstrative, but you kind of have to change. Like, if you go from a Jesse Ventura, who is not that, if there's the appeal of Roddy Piper is to be that crazed,
that's true,
unhinged,
that's who he is,
kind of guy,
right?
And then you put that on pay-per-view or you put that on commentary for like All American Wrestling, like Roddy Piper being on the soundtrack for WrestleMania 7 and Savage and Liz getting back together. Him being on the call for Savage proposing to Liz. Piper being on the call for Savage getting bit by the Cobra. Like, I couldn't imagine anybody else's voice for those sort of moments, because I think that matters. Like, there's a time and a place for things. Unfortunately, Roddy Piper grew up where everything he had was a hammer. The tool he had was a hammer, so everything was a nail.
Yeah.
He had one way of really doing things. So the way he would address everything would be this different way. Where you don't really get somber Roddy. You don't get serious Roddy until WrestleMania 12. And you get the commissioner or President Piper. You have the match with Goldust, and then really like his WCW stuff too. WCW Piper is overlooked. Coming in and I cower over. I'm the icon. I cower over no one. Getting right in the face of Hollywood Hogan. Being the real foil for Hogan while we wait for Sting to descend from the rafters. Right. But I think my thoughts on Roddy Piper are very similar to my thoughts on Terry Funk.
Which is?
I used to not understand Terry Funk. And as I get older, I appreciate him more and more.
Of course, yeah, I agree with that part. By the way, I know we talk about like how this being like a 2-card, maybe a 3, maybe a one match card. I actually love this match.
I think it's the lesser of the two.
Oh, easily. I mean, Owen is top 10 all time. I'm not saying that.
I'm saying the Yoko matches. I'm saying that Yoko Bret from 9 is better than this one. Yeah.
I have to watch it again. This one's a lot longer. They definitely worked this one more than 9. I think 9 was a lot shorter than this one. I think both these guys put in their fucking working boots in this one. Yoko's working here. Well, Yoko's fucking working.
WrestleMania 10. This goes 1083.
I think that one's 9 minutes. I believe the other one is. I think
8:55.
Okay, yeah. Not much more, but I guess a minute in wrestling is actually a lot, though. To be fair,
and also too, like I am of the camp that a lot of people believe that longer means better. That like for example, whatever you feel about Dave Meltzer or not, match has to go 45 minutes to be a great match, right? Where I'm one of the rare guys who thinks that Ultimate Warrior Honky Tonk Man. Ultimate Warrior Honky Tonk Man from WrestleMania 4 is a 5-star match.
Oh, no, you mean SummerSlam?
SummerSlam, yeah, sorry.
Right.
Ultimate Warrior Honky Tonk Man from SummerSlam, the Intercontinental title match. That's a 5-star match.
You know why? It's a moment.
You cannot add anything else to that match to give it more. It had everything that needed.
Yes. It is a surprise factor. Honky was lucky at that point for 14 months. That's actually a good topic to get into real quick with you about that, because I had we on this podcast I had Duke Bennett, Duke Us Wrestling, on the show, and we ranked our top 10 IC champions. I think Honky's top 3 all time. He has Honky number 1, and his reasoning is actually logical too. He looks at guys, to me, he looks at it as though it's like, if you're making guys during your reign, that's, to me, makes you a top guy, because it's not just enough to hold the belt and to have good matches. You have to be able to make guys. And Honky, for all the luck, to me, I agree with him in the sense that Honky was, at that time, 87, came out of nowhere, beat Steamboat. He's arguably the biggest heel in the company next to Andre at this point. He's lucky as shit. Then he puts over Savage, which Savage ends up parlaying that to the world title months later. And then he puts a Warrior to end his reign out of nowhere. So his argument is that he put over 2 of the biggest guys in the history of the company throughout his reign. And that's his argument for him being the greatest IC title reign in the history of the company. What do you say to that?
I say I'm trying to find this stupid spreadsheet. Because I absolutely did a all-time, I ranked my Intercontinental champions.
Ooh.
Very recently. Very, very recently. And I'm trying to see. My problem is I have too many Gmail accounts.
Oh.
And so because I have too many Gmail accounts, it is impossible to see where I started the spreadsheet to see.
Here's all the baby faces coming here now. You see Razor. You see, of course, Lex Luger. 1-2-3 Kid. Is that Tatanka? That's Tatanka there. Is that Bob Holly? That is Bob Holly. Of course, Piper. All come out to give Bret the rub as baby face.
Right. Everybody showing face, paying homage to the man.
Mm-hmm. And there's Savage, my boy, my goat, my personal goat, of course.
I absolutely had a Google sheet for this. I don't have Honky as my number. I do not have him as my number 1 Intercontinental champion.
Was he top 10?
Yes.
Okay, that's fine. A lot of people will say
Honky. Honky is top 10. Warrior is top 10.
See, Warrior was my number 1 actually.
I don't have him at 1.
And let me tell you why. And it's gonna require people understanding my point of view from this, because I was literally watching in real time as a child, when Warrior won the title and held and those reigns, all the way through those from 88 to like 91, 92. I was watching in real time. Ultimate Warrior was the first guy, even though Savage's reign's probably better, Honky's probably better, based on the work they were doing. Warrior was the first guy that made the IC title feel unlevel with the world title. At least that was a perception I felt as a child watching as a 9-year-old. And then you had that match, of course, at WrestleMania 6 between the 2 guys.
Right.
And it felt like it felt so important. That title felt so important that it was on the line. You know what I'm saying? So that was my thing. And by this is Owen, of course, looking at, Owen looking at jealousy, even though he won the match against Bret. Yeah, that's why for me, Warrior, it was more of an experiencing the Warrior reign in real time as a child, and feeling like that title was on level with the world title.
Mm-hmm.
Because people don't understand, Warrior was red hot in '89. loses the title to Rude in Mania 5, gets it back 3 months later at Mania at SummerSlam 1989. Okay. Warrior was arguably more popular than Hogan at this point. You can make an argument.
Right.
Because the character, the whole nine. We're not saying he's better than Hogan. We're just saying that at that moment, he was on-level Hogan. Obviously, we see what happened when he won the world title, and then obviously it was a failure of a reign. But at that time, leading up to WrestleMania 6, he was on level with Hogan in terms of popularity. So that title he elevated that title in a way where that was the only time I ever felt that title was on par with the world title. And that's why I put Warrior at number 1.
Mm-hmm.
Now, was it a better reign than Honky's reign? No. What is Miz a better champion overall than Warrior's as a title champion? Yes, I agree. Miz is better than Warrior, but because I think I can't let go of the experience I felt watching Warrior's reign in real time, and that's why I have to use that. I'm using that, and I'm being biased there in a sense, and I hate the Ultimate Warrior for the record. So I cried when he beat Hogan. I cried like a little bitch. 10 years old, still did to this day. Still watching matches today and still can't stand it.
Oh yeah.
Although I will say this much about Warrior though, and I'll close out here. Hot take a little bit to some degree. As someone who hates the Warrior, someone who looked at him as a horrible worker, I think in hindsight I appreciate him now, because even though he wasn't a great promo guy, even wasn't a great in-ring worker, the whole nine, what he did with that character, you have to give him credit. He made it work for the limitations he had as a worker and as a promo guy. The little he did, like he did what he was supposed to do. He was crazy. He didn't make any sense, but that was the point of the character. It didn't make any sense.
Right, and that's why I disagree with you saying that he's not a good worker. Like especially at WrestleMania, he has 2 of the all-time greatest matches at WrestleMania history.
To your point, I was getting there. My second part of the take was that he has 2 legendary matches at WrestleMania, back-to-back years.
Yeah,
Hogan and then Savage. Now, obviously,
the Rude match at 5 is nothing to sneeze at.
It's decent. I would argue the one at SummerSlam is better than the one at WrestleMania, though.
It is, because it's the get back.
Right. But those 2 matches, now people say, well, of course, you work with Hogan and Savage. Honestly, the Warrior was such a bad worker that, look at Hogan. People say Hogan sucked as a worker. But Hogan and Andre look believable. Hogan and Warrior look believable. Mm-hmm. Hogan told great stories. Savage is obviously one of the all-time greats, my all-time favorite wrestler. And they worked well with Warrior. Warrior worked well with guys who worked well with him. When he worked well, when Warrior wanted to work, he put in his working boots.
Warrior is a great follower.
Yes.
If Warrior is responsible for being the guy, the man in charge, no.
Yeah.
But Hogan commands the ring. Savage commands the ring. Rick Rude commands the ring. If he is being led, this guy is fantastic.
And the thing
is, the promos work too, man. Like, it's the 80s. Spectrox is going wild. My man he's hopped up on something, and he's not from here. He's an alien. He is from parts unknown.
Mm-hmm.
He is talking about the spirit of the dead warriors, and he's talking about loading spaceships with rocket fuel and crash landing a plane
into a nosedive, Hulk Hogan. And by the way, we call him Hulk. By the way, we call him HOOKKOGAA. Hulk Hogan.
Hulk Hogan.
Hulk Hogan.
Hulk Hogan. Yeah, and so I think that to say that Warrior's not a good worker is unfair. I think that he only works in the WWE.
And those 2 matches we mentioned, which I totally agree with you because I was on the same boat with that. Those were long matches. Like, those are 18, 20-minute matches. Mm-hmm. It wasn't like it was fast 10-minute matches like this one, for example. Those went 18, 20 minutes. Like, he worked with Hogan and he worked with Savage. He told stories in those matches, and he did a good job of that.
Right.
So I've come to terms with Warrior now as an adult. Now where would you put him all time? I know Bleacher Reports did a thing on their website this past they're gonna reveal the 1 through 10 this week. They did the top 50 all-time WWE superstars list. In my opinion, this list is trash. But they put Warrior at 35.
Who did this list?
Bleacher Report. The panel of Bleacher Report writers did this. I have the list right in front of me. Want to get numbers?
I'm pulling it up right now, but go ahead and hit me with it.
Okay, so real quick, because I'm gonna touch on this tomorrow on my other podcast with a couple of friends of mine, and we're gonna discuss real quick. We can discuss a little bit here, but they do have 11 through 50 out right now. Throw me a name, and I'll tell you exactly where they're ranked, and I'll just give you an idea why this list is trash.
Where do they have Brock Lesnar?
Brock Lesnar's at 17.
That's too low. That's
way too fucking low. Let me give you 50 through 41. Okay, in order. Going backwards. Big Show, Lita, Vader, Dean Ambrose, AJ Styles,
Vader,
Asuka. Yeah, ahead of Lita, which is bullshit. Vader's WWE run was horrible. Kofi Kingston 44, Jeff Hardy 43, Rick Rude at 42, which is actually fine to be honest with you because he had a short run there in WWE, and 41 Sasha Banks. Thoughts?
That's not very good.
Terrible. 40 through 31. Superstar Billy Graham, Rob Van Dam, Owen Hart, Mr. Perfect, Batista, Ultimate Warrior, Ricky Steamboat, Booker T, Jake Roberts, and Kane. I love Steamboat. He should not be head of the Warrior. Should not be head of the Warrior. As much as I can't say the Warrior, he should be head of the Warrior.
So I've recently I worked with my buddy Marcus in December of 2022 on a top 100 list for WWE.
Right.
And of course, this is end of 2022. I've got Tito Santana as the 50th greatest WrestleMania or 50th greatest WWE superstar of all time.
I can see the argument there. IC champion, great worker.
Yep. So like we had Brock Lesnar at 5.
He's in my top 10.
We have Jeff Hardy at 14.
So Jeff Hardy, it's 43 here.
How is he 43rd? How is he worse than Ravishing Rick Rude at 42? How is he worse than Sasha Banks? How is he worse than Superstar Billy Graham? Like, I love Rob Van Dam. Rob Van Dam's top 25. How is he worse than Owen Hart?
The list gets worse, buddy. It gets worse.
I'm looking right now. Batista's at 36. Get out of here.
Too low?
Yes.
Too low?
But we have Batista at 12.
Look at 28.
I'm looking.
No disrespect to 28, but what the fuck are we doing?
There's Jake. There's Kane. Razor at 30. Trish at 29. That's low. China at 28. Where do we have China? We had China. Significantly lower.
Yeah, as she should be.
Gosh,
she should be head of Trish number 1. Let's start there. As a female.
Where is China on our list? I know she's supposed to be on the list, but for whatever reason, I cannot find her. Well, we had Sasha Banks at 66. We had Owen Hart at 87.
That feels low.
But we had China. Why. We had China at 134.
How deep does the list go? Like 200?
Well, it was a list for top 100, but we listed everybody we thought could be possibly in the top 100. Our highest female is Charlotte Flair at 19.
Okay, Charlotte's 27 in this list.
That's ridiculous.
Seth Rollins 26, way too low at this point.
Where do we have 20. Seth?
He's top 20 now, in my opinion.
Seth Rollins we have at 47.
That was 2 years ago, right?
That was 2 years ago.
I imagine that would change now if he had an opinion. This last 2 years has really bumped.
He might be a little higher.
A little higher?
Yeah, Ric Flair at 24. We had it, or they have him at 24. We had him at 27.
He's way too high. 24. His WWE run didn't do nothing WWE really, other than like the 91 run and then Evolution. What else did he really do was significant? Honestly, I don't.
I mean, you're misremembering Evolution. Like he's a major part of Evolution.
He is
even before that, when he is the consortium and he takes over for after the invasion angle, where he becomes 50% owner of WWE after the McMahons. After Shane and Stephanie sell their half of sell WCW their half of WWE to the consortium, and Flair's the consortium. Flair was on one.
But ahead of Seth at this point, though. Ahead of Seth, what he's doing now. And this is the updated list now. This is 2024.
Yeah, it's tough. Let me get to the top 10. Triple H is rather low.
There's no top 10 yet. Top 10 releases tomorrow.
Top 10's released tomorrow. Okay.
Yeah.
So top from 20 to 11.
That's the shit. This is where it gets really fucking shitty.
So let me see. So my 20, we had Christian at 20, and they have CM Punk.
Mm-hmm.
CM Punk did not hit our top. CM Punk was 34 for us.
Okay.
Randy Orton's 19. We had Randy Orton at 7.
Too low.
Eddie Guerrero at 18. We had him at 17, so that's good.
Okay.
17, they have Brock Lesnar. We had him at 5.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Jericho at 16. We had Jericho at 22.
Okay, not a problem with that.
Mick Foley at 15, and we had Foley at 32.
Ooh, that's a low.
We had him between Kofi Kingston at 31 and Daniel Bryan at 33.
Really? Oh, okay.
Andre the Giant at 14, Andre at 9.
Yeah, he's white leg on this list. This is shit here. This one is shit.
Roman Reigns at 13. We had The Undertaker at 13.
That low, huh? Interesting.
We had Roman Reigns in the top 3.
Rey Mysterio's too high at 12.
No.
You think so?
No. We had Rey significantly. Where did we have Rey? So we had Rey at 40, but I don't necessarily believe, I think there was some fluctuations with this, but Rey's WWE run is better than his WCW run.
I agree with that, but
I don't know
12?
I don't know if he's 12. That's right.
Yeah, he's too high.
Kurt Angle at 11. We have Kurt Angle at 16.
So Angle should be Angle's too high, but it's a slightly high. Angle's in the teens. I agree with Angle's in the teens, definitely, but not 11.
Yeah,
you can't tell me he's better. Roman should be higher than Angle. So should Andre. So should, I could argue, Brock, and so should probably Randy Orton.
So I'm just looking through this list as we've gone through.
Triple H is egregiously low, of course. Triple H should be like borderline top 10. I'm sorry.
21. We have Triple H at 35.
Wow.
35.
Your list is probably as controversial as this fucking publication is. Where was Hogan at?
For our list, he was 4.
So who's at a Hogan? Who's at a Hogan? Roman.
So our top 10 was Bruno Sammartino at 10.
I was going to say Dino Bravo.
Bruno at 10, Andre at 9, Randy Savage at 8, Randy Orton at 7, The Rock at 6, Brock at 5, Hulk at 4, Roman 3, Bret Hart 2, Stone Cold 1.
Bret at 2? Bret's definitely top 10, but that's wow. That's
Bret at 2.
I don't hate the list though.
So the way we judge, so if you look at this, if you haven't looked at the Bleacher Report list, so they at the very top of the thing, they give the categories of historical significance, championships, popularity, needle mover. Did they make a meaningful difference in ratings, ticket sales, and overall business, time active, pay-per-view appearances, and skills? Whereas ours, we based it off of a very, very fun named NJPW scale, which is the acronym for New Japan Pro Wrestling, but it's also like the 4 categories we base things off of, which is nuance, which is longevity, flexibility, and intangibles, right? Things you can't count.
Yeah.
Jump up factor, which is memorable peak matches, moments, and storylines.
But Bret has that, though. That's part of what helps.
Promo skills and character work. And work rate. And that's how we judged.
Wait a second. Where's Shawn Michaels then? Holy shit. He's not in the top 10.
Shawn's 24.
Holy shit. Wow. That's controversial, too.
Mm-hmm. We have
I respect it, though. I respect it.
We have Shawn between Edge and RVD.
Unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
Controversial.
But it's to put a flavorful bow on everything.
Yeah.
Wrestling is like ice cream. There are so many different flavors of ice cream.
That's true.
Everybody loves ice cream, but not everybody loves the flavor that you love. Some people love regular plain old vanilla chocolate strawberry. Some people like cookies and cream. Some people like mint chocolate chip. And some people like froyo. Doesn't mean you're wrong, but your ice cream tastes and my ice cream tastes maybe don't line up, and that's the same with wrestling. Maybe your style of wrestling that you love is not a style of wrestling that I love, and vice versa. But that's what makes wrestling great, because it's all a melting pot. It's Baskin Robbins, baby. All the flavors, 31 flavors. It's all wrestling, but your tastes can vary, and that's why there's nothing like wrestling.
I agree. I've always said when I do Mount Rushmore, to me is about guys who impacted the business in an economical way, and to me it's and I got to discuss about this earlier today on my other pod. You know, to me your shoo-ins are to me a Hogan, obviously, in Austin, my 1-2. I got pushed back on Austin from one guy. I don't know why. He put Roman in the Mount Rushmore. I don't necessarily disagree with that. I will say, if Rock wasn't there before, I think this current run of the Rock right now might have actually made that case stronger now for him, because now he's doing this in different eras now.
Yes, but Rock coming back now when the business is getting hot again, that's kind of like him hitching his wagon to a hot
Austin,
train.
Like Austin in 97, 98.
Yeah. Like I literally, before I got on this podcast, I got onto another podcast where I talked about I am of the opinion, I think I say this pretty much ad nauseum, I believe the greatest WWE superstar of all time is Roman Reigns.
Yeah, you made that quite clear last time on this podcast.
Number 1 with a bullet. And like I explained the whole Austin scenario, where like Austin is great, but look who he had with him. When he was at his greatest, it was like the 1929 Yankees. It's a murderer's row. Of course, Austin can be great when he's playing against The Rock and Triple H and Mankind and The Undertaker and The Big Show. And he's got like this whole row of like all-time greats with him. And then at the same time, it is during the hottest period of wrestling ever. And the other side of the TV is Hulk Hogan redefining himself and leading the NWO and being the hottest thing ever. So how great can Stone Cold Steve Austin be as being the number 1 guy during the number 1 era, when there's like, it's a team effort as to why he's the number 1 guy? Where if you look at Roman Reigns, he is the number 1 guy, and he is pretty much solely responsible for where we are right now.
Well, to the point you made here, Duke was saying on the podcast today that during our preview that the reason he has Roman under Mount Rushmore is because of the fact that The company sold for $9 billion. That's all Roman's work.
Right.
That was the point he made about Roman. Is why is why you should take Austin off. You're saying Hogan should be there too. Hogan's on Rushmore as well.
Hogan's on the Hogan
has to be
For me, my Rushmore is Hogan, Roman,
Cena?
Austin.
Austin's still there. Okay.
And if it's just wrestlers, it's either Cena or Flair.
We're talking WWE, not just pro wrestling. Obviously,
if we're talking WWE, if we're talking just WWE, see, if you're talking WWE, then the whole thing changes.
Because Hogan ain't, because Flair ain't there.
Flair's not there. There's a chance Hogan's not there.
Oh no! I can't do that. I can't.
Roman, Bret, Shawn. Oh no, Bruno. Then it'll probably be Bruno, Hulk, Cena, Roman.
I can do that. I see. With me, the only reason I don't put Bruno there is because I limit it to Vince Jr. Yeah. So that once Vince Jr. took over, it was the Hogan show out the gate.
Right.
But Bruno's definitely. If you talk about all time, Bruno's definitely in that conversation.
Well, so. the reason why it was the Hulk show is because Vince Jr. needed his Bruno.
Yeah.
Vince Sr. had a Hulk. His Hulk was Bruno Sammartino.
Correct.
So Hogan if you look at Hogan's runs, Hogan's first run is the same as Roman's run right now. He's chasing ghosts.
Correct.
He's chasing after the run of Bob Backlund before him, and Bruno Sammartino before him.
Yeah.
And now Roman is the first guy to do that since
Hulk Hogan.
The most recent reign that's even been this long is Punk.
That's true.
And that's 434 days.
That's it.
And Roman is 3 times longer than that.
Mm-hmm. It's crazy, isn't it?
Roman's number one. Roman's number one with a bullet.
I don't hate it. I think Roman. I think the only case against Roman at this point now is that people will say, "Well, Roman only started to become this Mount Rushmore candidate with this current run." You weren't considering Roman in that conversation for the first 8 years of his WWE career.
But you're talking about a 3.5-year run.
But see, no, I'm agreeing with you. That's what I'm saying.
On top of a fantastic 8 years before that.
That the fans took a while to regurgitate, to swallow.
He's a part of one of the greatest stables of all time in the Shield.
Mm-hmm.
He will, this WrestleMania, both tie and break Hulk Hogan's record for most WrestleMania main events.
Mm-hmm.
He has now Roman has mastered the WWE main event style, but before then he was putting on really solid main events.
Mm-hmm.
Roman versus AJ Styles is tremendous. Nobody has gotten anything out of Braun Strowman like Roman Reigns has. Go back and watch the Roman Braun stuff. Braun Strowman was never more interesting than when he was chasing Roman Reigns.
Mm-hmm.
Just Roman is underrated during that first run.
Yeah.
Before leukemia. Fans booed him because it was fun to boo him because they missed John Cena. But as the head of the table, man, this is his GOAT run, right? It's like LeBron. It's LeBron, right?
Yeah.
LeBron was the greatest of all time, or LeBron's the greatest of all time, but he doesn't win a championship until he goes to Miami, right?
Right.
And you're talking, that's what? It's an 8-year run or 7 years before he gets to Miami.
He was 7 years went to Miami. 7 years to Cleveland, Miami 4 years.
He doesn't just become great when he wins his championship. He's already there. He just doesn't get a title.
Right.
Then once you get to Miami, now it's a door that unlocks for LeBron.
And Roman's the same way.
And Roman's the exact same way.
I love that analogy. Oh, man, that's a fantastic analogy. I'm gonna clip that for YouTube short. That's actually gonna be really good. Anyway, Tim, this was a fantastic podcast. We actually ended the last match like 30 minutes ago. We went to this,
I know.
this discussion. We can go,
on forever, baby.
Oh, hell yeah, dude. I definitely could too. But plug away on all your work because you got a lot going on. You mentioned earlier, you got podcasts galore. You'll be at WrestleMania this week for night 2. Plug away what you got.
Of course, I'll be remiss. I'll do the dirty work for Big Jim. Of course, the Big Jim sports conglomerate, huddle up, discussions with a nobody, 3CT, Tuesdays and Thursdays. Thursdays live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Now X, but if you call it X, you're a cop. But three count Thursday everywhere. Always the number, never the word. We're going long this Thursday, so if you're listening to this now, stop by, see us. Facebook.com/3count Thursday. Longer episode for the Royal WrestleMania talks. For me, I am a proud contributor of the North-South Connection Podcast Network. I've been on their YouTube for some WrestleMania preview talks myself, and I am the producer of one of their flagship shows, No Holds Barred with JT and Aaron, where they've been ranking every WWE title change since the beginning. And determining what's the best title change of all time. And they've also been building ultimate pay-per-view cards. So if you go to the YouTube, you search for North-South Connection, look for No Holds Barred. They just did an ultimate WrestleMania card where they have to take one match from every WrestleMania, but you can't double up on participants. So once you use a person, you can't use them again.
Yeah.
And you can't use the same title more than once either. So it's a very big challenge once you get to like 39 events. But my baby, my pride and joy, my 2 podcasts that I do with my best friend Marcus, Final Wrestling Place over on the North-South Connection, over on the soon to be named network, where Marcus and I basically it's the best not wrestling podcast you'll ever listen to, where we just literally talk about what's on our minds and kind of base it off of the television show The Good Place, where we take topics and give them arbitrary red points and green points and determine whether or not it's in wrestling's good place or bad place. And then after every WWE and AEW pay-per-view on the North-South Connection, we give you viewer's choice. It is a less than 30-minute look at the pay-per-view that just aired. We give you the must-watch, the must-skip, and who the MVP is. Because people don't necessarily watch all the pay-per-views. Of course, WrestleMania is going to be different. All eyes are on WrestleMania. But who's really watching Clash at the Castle? Like, that's us. We're doing the hazard pay, watching all the Saudi Arabia shows and the late night Sunday AEW pay-per-views. That's us, baby. So if you want to follow me on social media, you can. I'm everywhere at Not the Toolman. I'd love for you guys to check out my stuff, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. And EJ, thank you as always for the invitation.
Absolutely.
Whenever the door is open and the seat's empty, I'll happily put my big fat white ass right in that seat.
I'll ask this quick before we close out. Who's winning the main event? Cody or Roman?
If you look at the North-South Connection, you'll hear me say Cody Rhodes, but I lied. It's Roman Reigns, baby.
Interesting. Because I'm torn.
If Cody wins, he finishes the story. Then what?
Boom.
If Roman wins, you have so many more possibilities.
Because I'm wondering if the company still prioritizes him beating Hogan's record. I don't know.
I think they do.
They do. Okay. You think they do?
I think they do. I think Cody wins the title the first Raw on Netflix.
Oh. And it would be 2025, of course.
First of 25.
Okay.
But by that time, Hogan will already be eclipsed.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yep. First
Raw on Netflix in Madison Square Garden.
Yeah, that makes a lot. That's actually a good prediction.
That's
like
what you do.
I like that one. Anyway, Tim, great job, man. Awesome podcast. We'll do this again soon. Obviously, we'll figure out what the topics we'll do later on down the road. But
we'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out. There's a lot of shit with wrestling, man, to tackle.
It never ends.
It never ends. It's the best. It's the best.
That's right.
Good job, man.